RV kitchen. Anything that you make in a sticks and bricks kitchen, you can absolutely make in an RV kitchen. It just needs to be adapted. Super easy to do, you just have to be a little bit creative. So I've got all my ingredients here. I've got my macaroni noodles. You can use any kind of noodles that you like. Mayonnaise. I'm a Miracle Whip person, but you need to use mayonnaise in this recipe. I've got my eggs. I've actually already got them cooking in the pressure cooker. I'll talk to you more about that in a little bit. We've got our pickles, olives, celery salt, celery seed, our black pepper, our mustard, and our green onions. You can use green, white, red, whatever kind of onions you like. We prefer the green onions. And I've got salt to salt my pasta water. So we're going to go ahead and get our pasta water boiling while the eggs are cooking. So they're in the pressure cooker on high pressure for 4 minutes. I put about 10 of them in there with about a cup of water or so. I've noticed the water kind of dries out, so although they recommend a half a cup, I use a cup to a cup and a half, just kind of depending on my mood for the day, really. So you let those build up to pressure, let them cook. Once they're done, I let it naturally release pressure for a little while, and then I dump them in some ice water, and I poke a little hole in the shell, and that just helps that membrane pull away. So when you're peeling your eggs, it doesn't destroy your eggs. But I'll show you how we do that. So let's get our pasta water going. I've got my eggs cooking. I've got the macaroni noodles boiling. Or I've got the water coming to a boil for the macaroni noodles. Now I'm gonna chop up my vegetables that are gonna go in there while I'm waiting. Alright, so I've got ice in my bowl. This is the perfect way to clean out the bottom of that ice maker and get that old ice out of there, because you're not eating it, you're just using it to cool off the eggs. So I'm going to run some cold water in there. I'm going to make sure that the rest of the pressure is released out of my pressure cooker. I'm going to go ahead and turn it off. Alright, and I am going to take a set of tongs to get those eggs out, because those eggs are hot. See? Perfectly boiled eggs. Get them in there, get them cooling off. That should be enough water. Sometimes you do get an occasional one that cracks. It's usually a-okay. Except for this one I probably won't use because it's pretty wide open, if you can see that. So now, you can use a tack. I have a little tiny nail that I use. I go on the big end of the egg. Now they're cool enough to touch. I'm going to just poke a hole, set it over here so I know which ones I've poked holes in. And then they're going to go right back in the cold water and sit there for a while. Oh, is that it? Yes, so. Whew, my hand's cold. All right, back in there. The eggs are starting to warm up. They're not cold from the water anymore. So now we're gonna let them sit in there and get really cold. All right, as you can see, I have got my bowl of ice water and eggs over here, and I have just a regular size spoon, and I've got my cutting board and a napkin. So let's see how these peel. Let's see. So there's the hole that I poked in there. I know it's really tiny, not sure if you can see it, but there's the hole I poked. So I'm just going to take the side of my spoon and crack the egg on either side of that hole. Make sure my spoon is nice and wet. And I'm going to go under the shell and try to break that membrane, but not get any of the actual egg in the process. Of course, these eggs do not have to be pretty because you're chopping them up. But if you wanted to make deviled eggs or just nice hard-boiled eggs, this is the best way to peel them. Look at that. There we go. That's it. Quick and easy way to peel eggs. Also works on farm fresh eggs. I much prefer farm fresh eggs, but they are so hard to peel sometimes. So this method has worked best for me. Of course, there's always 1 or 2 eggs that get a little bit damaged, but that's totally fine with us. They're still edible. They might not be pretty, so I wouldn't serve them to guests, but I'll chop them up and throw them in egg salad or in a macaroni salad, no problem. All right, let's get our macaroni in the water to boil, and then we'll come back and chop the eggs up. All right, the water is boiling. I've got quite a bit of sea salt in there, so I'm gonna go ahead and pour my elbow macaroni in. I'm just gonna stir that up, let it come to a boil, and meanwhile, we're gonna chop the eggs. There we go, eggs are chopped. Olives, onions, and pickles are chopped and ready to go. Now all I have to do is wait for my macaroni noodles to quit cooking, and as soon as they're done, we'll start assembling. While we're waiting for the noodles to cook, let's go ahead and measure out our spices. So I am gonna do about 1/2 teaspoon of celery seed. I'm gonna do about a full teaspoon, not 3/4, a full, of celery salt. Now I might adjust this later to taste, so I'm trying to go a little bit conservative because you can always add, but you can't take back. And then black pepper. Let's do 1/2 teaspoon just to start. Not doing any regular salt because I've got the celery salt and I've got the salt from the pickles. So we're gonna start there, we're gonna mix it all up, and we're gonna see how it tastes, and then we'll add a little bit as we think we need to. All right, my pasta is done cooking and it has cooled off. So hey, I have a question for all of you. I need my pasta cooled to put it in the salad so that it doesn't make the dressing of the mayonnaise and mustard all nasty. So I run cool water over it and then just let it sit for a minute. How do you cool your pasta? I worked for an Italian restaurant when I was a teenager, and I think they'd have had my head if they'd have found out that I cooled it with water, but I don't know a better way to do it. So if you do, leave me a comment in the comments below and I would love to try it. So, all right, there's my pasta and my egg. Let's go ahead and put the rest of our chopped up items in there. I like to mix it all up. Normally I save a little bit of pasta out because my husband likes to eat it, but I didn't do that, so we might be a little heavy on the pasta today, but I know I won't get any complaints, so it'll be all right. Okay, so now I am going to take my mayonnaise. So I've got 1 cup right here, and that's where I start with. It's such a decision game to play with the mayonnaise, how much. I always just throw it in there till it looks right. So we're going to experiment today. The mustard, about 1/4 cup of mustard, more or less, if you like, but I think that's about what's right for us. Let's go ahead and get that mixing. I'm not putting any of my spices in yet. Now, I've noticed that once I put this in the fridge for a little while, the noodles kind of absorb some of the mayonnaise. So I always like it to look way creamier and more mayonnaise-ier, I guess. We're just making up words today. More creamier than you would think, so that when it's in the fridge cooling, then when you pull it out, it's still nice and creamy. So I am going to add a little bit more mayonnaise. Maybe about 1/2 cup's worth. We'll see. I think that's going to be plenty. So I'm going to go ahead and take a leap of faith and put the mayonnaise away. All right. Let's get to mixing, and we're gonna go ahead and take our spices. Remember, that was about 1/2 teaspoon of black pepper, a teaspoon of celery salt, and about 1/2 teaspoon of celery seed. We're gonna sprinkle it all over. All right, let's get this really good and mixed up now. Feeling like that's looking perfect. I am going to grab a clean spoon and I'm going to take a sample before I plop it in the fridge, just to make sure I don't feel like it needs anything else right this moment. So, a clean spoon, and I'll try to get some good stuff on there, and let's see. Say that's it, on the money. So I am going to throw some saran wrap on this and throw it in the refrigerator and let it cool off the rest of the way. And then we're going to eat it with cheeseburgers for dinner.